Weak. You know that was coming. Welcome everybody to the first ever Greenbrier County Republican Executive Committee hosted debate. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. It has been the goal of the executive committee throughout the course of this year so far to try to keep everybody informed. You know, we are the party in charge. And with that comes a lot of responsibility. We have some great decision making ahead of us. And it's important that the county executive committee, as has the Greenbrier County Republican Club, serve a role in educating the public by hosting these kinds of forums. Ms. Tammy, I know you all have a microphone in there. If you need it. I think we might want that. Yes, ma'am. We can do that. So this is so important that we all are here this evening. Thank you all for coming. To those watching live on Facebook, thank you all for participating and being interested in the process. I'm going to start the evening by asking Senator Vince Deeds to open us in prayer.
Sure. Let's stand if you're ready. Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity, this time that you've brought us together. Heavenly Father, to talk about government business this evening. And Heavenly Father, but all business is yours, and so may we just look to you for godly wisdom and discernment. Be with all the candidates and encourage them and strengthen them. May they look to you for that guidance and direction. Which in Jesus' precious name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all. Also, a big thank you to the brand new Cowboy Kitchen, Miss Tammy Vandal. Tammy, would you like to say anything?
Yeehaw. No, honestly, I'm so excited. And I say excited like I'm from Tennessee, but really I'm a West Virginia girl, born and raised. And I want to thank every single one of you. You're political superheroes. You need a cape. You need a cape. But I am so thrilled to be in this town again. I've been gone for a long, long time, and Miss Andy can attest to it. There you are, just a little off his body. But I'm so excited to be back here and working. You all just let me know what I can do to help, because I'm here for you. Once I get this little place up and running, we've been open a month. We've been open a month, and with a little coffee and a whole lot of Jesus, we're doing it.
Testing. Oh, that is hot. That's good. Okay. So, this is how this is going to work tonight. We have 3 candidates for the 47th House District. That is everything west of 219 in Greenbrier County. And those candidates are former Delegate Ray Canterbury, former Delegate George Boogie Ambler, former Airport Director Steven Snyder. I can tell you all right now, all 3 of these gentlemen are honorable, good men who wish to serve. I am honored to say that I'm a friend to each of these individuals. They've been a friend to me, and we are blessed to have them in our Greenbrier County Republican Party. So first, a round of applause to our candidates tonight. How this is going to work. We all want to be out of here by 8:30. 8:30 is our cutoff, no matter what. And so, we need to get started. Each candidate will receive 4 minutes as an opening statement. So we know all we can to know about them. Beyond that, we have a list of questions. If anybody else has a question, I have paper and pen, would be glad to get that to you. Folded up, brought up here. We will go in order. These are all randomized. Each candidate gets 2 minutes to respond. And once again, this is a debate. This is not a town hall. The candidates have the option, if they want to say something about their opponent in a respectful manner, they have that right, with the knowledge that each candidate will then have 1 minute to respond. That's the only fair way to do this. This is a unique situation. Most of the time on a local level, debates don't happen. Usually it is a town hall format or a forum where everybody gets 2 minutes and we move on. It is too important that we as a Republican Party have an actual discussion. We actually have to talk about opposing viewpoints because we are the party in charge. And so that's why we decided it would be best to host an actual debate. Without further ado, in alphabetical order, by last name, I'm going to ask former Delegate George Boogie Ambler to start us off with his opening statement of 4 minutes. It will then go, Mike, to former Delegate Canterbury and then Mr. Snyder.
See if I don't need this, and if I do, let me know. Thank you very much for being here. Thanks for the opportunity to the exec committee to bring us out here tonight and discuss the issues. I am George Boogie Ambler, and I am seeking out to be your delegate. The 47th is extremely important to me. It's the side of the county that we have neglected for a number of years, and now it's time to come back to and make things happen here. And the way we're going to be able to make the things happen here is we're going to have to work together. You cannot have one little group trying to do something on its own because the finances are not there. If we don't, if you don't run into some huge amount of money through a grant or something, that money soon dissipates and you're still right back to where you're struggling all the time. I do believe that we can bring the western end of the counties from Alderson to Rupert to Rainelle, part of Lewisburg, and bring everybody together and put it all in one pot. Our brains, and I'm not talking about putting all the money in one pot. I'm talking about being able to take and put our brain power together and seek out options that will bring back economic prosperity here to this side of the county. And and after 6 years, I've been going out of office 6 years. And please keep in mind, I left office willingly in 2018. And I ran for the Senate from the 5 counties or 4 counties that we had, and I lost. So I've been out for about 6 years. I've been watching what's going on, trying to stay active with what is happening, and then seeing if there is. When the seat opened with our delegate deciding not to run again, then I said, hey, look, here's an opportunity. Let's go back and see if we can garner up enough support again to go back to Charleston and attempt go down there and finish some of the little odds and ends that I thought I had started that just died when we left office. I've stated on more than one occasion, you have to have a pusher. You have to have someone who is there, who has established a credibility with the other delegates there, with the leaderships, in order to move an idea through. I've stated all along, the best way to move an idea is through common sense. Sitting down and being able to talk out and taking away the extremist views and bring them back into something that we can all clutch and get a hold of. And I truly think that I am the delegate candidate who can get that done. In fact, I have been able to get it done. I did it for 6 years. 4 particularly. The first 2 was kind of had to learn a little bit, but we were getting stronger all the time. What is West Virginia? We started moving things in 2014. We took a state that PEIA was down to $70 million and the base later on was $120 million. We were basically a broke state in 2014. Mismanagement of 84 years of the other side. So we started chipping away with those things. And I'm proud to say that I'm glad I was a part of that. And I think I was pretty much an integral part of that for the next 4 years. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you tonight. Hope I'll answer all your questions the best I can. And I will tell you this right off of it. I'm sure that probably somewhere in 6 years, being in Charleston, I did not vote the way every one of you wanted me to vote on something. I'm sorry. It just can't happen. And I've told you from day one, and we're iterated tonight, I'll do the best job I possibly can for you to move this county forward. And I need your support to make that happen. So again, thank you very much. I am George Boogie Ambler, and I do want my job back. I really and truly want the job back. So give me an opportunity. Thank you very much.
Use the microphone. Okay. Thank you. I'm Ray Canterbury. I am a pro-life, pro-Second Amendment conservative, but since I don't have much time, let's just get right into it. In this campaign, you may have to decide which one of the three of us you think is the most capable of representing this district and helping lead the state of West Virginia over the next 2 years, given the circumstances and challenges ahead of us. Now, I say circumstances because I believe that we're all three very capable, but we all bring something different to the table. And the person who may be the most suited to handle one set of challenges may not be the person who is the best suited to handle another set, and so I think we should begin by talking about what those challenges are. I believe that sometime over the next 2 years, the state of West Virginia will be faced with a financial and fiscal emergency. And I say that because I believe that sometime over the next 2 years, the world is going to face another financial crisis. This is because the federal government is $34 trillion in debt. That debt is increasing by $1 trillion every 100 days. The interest on the federal debt is over $1 trillion a year. We are now printing money at breakneck speed to cover our deficits, and in the process, we're destroying the value of our currency. Other countries recognize this. They realize that the dollar is no longer a store of value, and they are rapidly trying to move away from the dollar as a reserve currency. This puts our banks in a precarious position. They are faced with a dilemma. They either have to raise interest rates through the roof to protect the dollar, but thereby also blow up the federal budget and also exacerbate a liquidity crisis in the financial system, or they have to keep interest rates low to help save the federal government and the financial system, but in the process, they will lead to the demise of the dollar. It's a devil's choice. Meanwhile, the Biden administration doesn't like any of our industries. They don't like coal or gas or timber or agriculture. And the fact is, they're leading us into a disaster, a financial disaster, and with no tax base remaining except for an aging population of retirees on fixed incomes, and they'll have to struggle with hyperinflation. And this is in a state that has one of the highest public debt to GDP ratios in the country. Now, if and when this financial crisis hits West Virginia, who will handle it? The legislature. Now, on the House side of the legislature, we have an 89-member Republican supermajority, and they're doing a great job making West Virginia a better place to do business. But it's a new majority with a lot of fresh faces. I've looked through the roster. Probably at least half of the people there have had 3 terms or less of experience, probably 2/3, 4 terms or less. Now, 3 terms is 6 years and sounds like a lot, but keep in mind, a year in the legislature is really only 60 days of experience. So if you've been there for 6 years, you've been there for a year, and many people there at that point have not yet even served on finance, and so they're not really necessarily intricate with all of the details of the budget or the budget making, setting process, or the economic issues that are around that. And these are the people who will be dealing with this financial crisis when it comes to West Virginia. So what do I bring to the table? Well, I have 16 years of experience. I served on the Finance Committee for much of that time. I served on the Pensions Committee for the entire time. Importantly, I served during the financial crisis in 2008, which many of our senior members in the House, including the Speaker, can't even say. I know what a financial crisis looks like. I know how it rips through the state budget, and I expect that the next one is going to be worse than the last one. I come into this without needing any kind of on-the-job training, and more importantly, I also come in with a lot of experience and institutional knowledge and can serve as a resource for all of those newer members there who are still basically in the early stages of their learning curve, and while they're learning the budget, may be faced with a crisis and forced to make critical decisions that will affect you. Now, both of my opponents may in some ways be able to run rings around me, but in this particular case, I think that these are the qualifications that are going to be important in the state of West Virginia over the next 2 years. And if you agree with that, I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Snyder.
Ben, do you need this?
Yes.
For Facebook?
Yes.
I don't want it, but I've got it.
I'm Steven Snyder. Do you know how far S is back in the alphabet? When you're military and you're trying to get in the chow line and it's raining outside, S is a long ways back. Either way, I am Steven Snyder. I am a conservative running for the House of Delegates, District 47. Make no mistake, folks. I know how to get things done. I've been a lot of places. I've seen a lot of things. I've been with a lot of leaders throughout our nation and throughout the world. I'm bringing that home to West Virginia. I know how to get it done.
20 plus years as a military member, 4.5 years as an airport director once I came home. I flew a couple years for lifeguard in the Cleveland Clinic here. If you're happy that there's a lifeguard helicopter in Greenbrier Valley, I know how that happened. It didn't happen with your county commission. It happened with a bunch of people working behind the scenes, and I was leading that charge. I can lead the charge in Charleston as well. I am a fiscal conservative. I am a constitutionalist. You can call me a statesman. You can call me a patriot. You can call me a lot of things, but don't dare call me a politician, because this right here is a term limits pledge, and by the time anybody sets up a Wikipedia page to call me a politician, I'll be gone. My job is to go to Charleston, go with purpose, get the job done, and get back out here to support the next ethical person in line to get this job done. There are a lot of people that don't want to see this term limits pledge right here. They don't, because it means change. It means that you and I are taking our county, our state back from special interest. I am encouraging each of you to follow the money. See who's buying your votes. Right is right, wrong is wrong, and the vote belongs to you and I. I have a brain and a spine. I know how to use them both. I will tell you, secondly, that I will not sell my soul to the devil for this job or any other, period. I will not take a dime in political action committee, special interest money, or anything else. I'll raise this on my own. I'll come to your doorstep. I will see you. We will talk about issues. I'm not going to send you a flyer in the mail, because until I look in your eyes and see what your needs are as a family, whether it's a disabled child, whether it's finances, whether it's education, whether it's I just lost my job and we need retraining, I don't know that sending you a flyer in the mail. I'm going to see you face to face, and we're going to have that discussion. This is a letter from the West Virginia Freedom Caucus. This is not a political action committee. These are the folks in Charleston. These are the delegates and representatives that serve you now. They have endorsed me as the conservative option. They know all three of us here at this table, but they chose to serve me. Our delegate, Todd Longacre, in the back. Todd is a member of the Freedom Caucus, and these two don't coincide. They're completely separate. They happened in separate time frames. But I did get the endorsement of Mr. Todd Longacre just last week. Todd's been incredibly conservative in his values. You know where he stands, whether you like it or not. You know where he stands. Okay? I wasn't going to go this direction, but essentially I've been called out with this little flyer. Maybe many of you got it. This flyer says, vote for the other guy. Biden's open border debacle, questioning my conservative values and my stance on the Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, when you stand up and raise your right hand and say, as a military member, I swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. End of story. It doesn't stop. It stays with you for a lifetime. There's a Marine in the second row that will testify to that, Vietnam veteran, and I thank you. My Second Amendment has been called into question. I didn't get the NRA's questionnaire. I think somebody else got it, and she called me and she said, Steve, I got some mail that belongs to you. I never did get it. For whatever reason. It says it all. This is my Second Amendment right.
We will be readdressing that topic. That topic will come back up, and I'm sure there will be a lot of discussion. I do ask all candidates, please try to be respectful to each other. We're all part of the Republican Party. And to that effect, before we move on, elected officials and candidates here tonight. Let's go in order. Mayor Andrea Pendleton of Rainelle. Candidate for Circuit Judge Ryan Blake. Senator Vince Deeds. Prosecuting attorney and candidate for Circuit Judge Patrick Vi. Candidate for prosecuting attorney Nicole Graybeal Campbell. Candidate for family court judge Christine Stump. Delegate Todd Longacre. Delegate Roy Cooper. Recorder of Rainelle, Bill Bell. County Commissioner Tammy Shiplett-Tincher. Police Chief of Rainelle, Mike Evans. Candidate for House of Delegates, Thomas Perkins. Candidate for Sheriff of Greenbrier County, Doug Beard. I want to give a special appreciation to the Real WV for being here to broadcast this live as well. Thank you to Real WV. Now, we are in Western Greenbrier. I think it's appropriate to start with this question. What is your plan to support the recreational opportunities in Western Greenbrier County? In particular, the opportunities that the Meadow River Rail Trail will bring to this county. We're going to go in opposite order of where we were to begin with, starting with Steven Snyder.
Oh, sugar. How long been, 2 minutes?
You have 2
And I
minutes.
still need that?
Yes.
Listen, the recreational opportunities, West Virginia thrives on it. I actually had one political person said, hey, tourism dollars aren't dollars. That's not an economy. Somebody forgot to tell the people in Orlando, Florida, okay? Listen, we're beautiful. This state is amazing. I love it here. I brought my family back home for a reason. We can do this. Tourism dollars count. It is an economy. The rail trail, I've been talking to Andy, I've been talking to mayors, not just for the course of this election, for over a decade now. There is a lot to be said here. Boogie's absolutely right. All ships rise on the tide. We work together and we do this together as West Virginians, and we start pulling people back off the interstates. We start getting them back in our small towns. When we took the high schools out of our towns and when we put in the interstates, we ripped the heart out of our small towns. Let's get it back. Let's let them know you can come here and you can camp in the middle of town for a couple of days for free. It's on us. See what we're about. See the values of our people. See what the cost of living is here compared to where you've been. Let's get that back on. Let's let them go ahead and continue a good paved road out to Hawks Nest State Park. My son, all of his first fish, first day with training wheels, first day without training wheels, first hike, first bear sighting, first everything. It all happened in the West Virginia State Park. We have something amazing here. The Western End and the rails, trails, Mr. Ford, and all you folks that do that work, I mean, kudos to you. It takes a lot of people, it takes a lot of work to continue to push this uphill, but we have something amazing here. People come to our home and they look at the porch and they're like, oh my gosh, it's so green. It's something special. I have said before, and I said it to a gentleman in the audience just a little bit ago, there's 3 times that men can cry in West Virginia and you're not going to be judged. You can cry in church, you can cry at the national anthem, and when John Denver plays Country Roads. That's how special this state is to me, right to my core. Becky, good one.
Canterbury.
Thank you. Back when I was younger and fitter, I liked to do about 30 miles a weekend on the rail trails. Actually, I've looked at the map of the national parks, and I've actually imagined that West Virginia one day could be the host of a rail trail system that would stretch from Harper's Ferry to Wheeling to Huntington. Could you imagine hopping on a bicycle in Harper's Ferry and riding all the way to the Ohio River Valley? Now, I think that would be an attractive thing. So I absolutely support rail trails. This one in particular would be great, but I think the idea ultimately would be to try to integrate all of them into a single integrated system, so literally you could ride from one place in the state to another, and I do believe that that would be an appealing thing.
Thank you. Boogie Ambler.
I like the idea that we're all looking to use tourism dollars that are so prevalent out there in the rest of West Virginia. The river trail, the rail trail as we call it, certainly is a cornerstone to anything that's going to happen on this side of 219. That is the backbone, and we can work off that. You know, we are very fortunate then to have that part to where we can bring people here. But it doesn't have to start right here. It can start in Alderson on the Greenbrier River. Spend a day there. Come on over. Spend the night. Get on the trail here and use the trail up to Nowlin, and hopefully we take it on through further at that point, and then we get to tie it into what? The National Park Service up in there. Tourism dollar is where it's at right now. $9, $10, $11 return to $1. Hey, that is money, and we just need to start making use of the opportunity that is Mother Nature has given us. We lost when Interstate 64 went. I've stated this before. Our traffic just started drying up. Well, now we have an opportunity to bring that traffic from Beckley, West Virginia. Don't send it up on 19 and down that way. Let's bring it down here to Sand Black or Dawson exit, and let's come this way with it. We have a great opportunity. We just need to put together and work hard with our county commissions, with the development boys, and thinking we can make things happen here. We can make it happen. Thank you.
All right, keep it there for now. Next question from the audience. Are you aware that the Greenbrier County Health Department has a needle exchange program? If so, do you support this program, starting with Mr. Canterbury?
No. I'm well aware of it because our church down at Alderson Johnson Memorial was used as a hub for some of the exchanging of people with drug addiction and where they could come in there. Now, I will tell you this, it kind of fizzled out pretty quick down there, and I don't really know the reason why it fizzled out, other than the fact that the addiction people, they just seem to dry up and not come. I have a trouble period of addiction and the problem with it. Needle exchange, if you want to look from the medical side of things, yeah, let's clean up and not have all the other things that go with it that turn around and cause. My personal preference, of course, is that we would not have any need for use for needle exchange. And I think we can work on that. There are ways of doing that. We may not eliminate it in the next 10 years, but it is something that is workable. We can get some activity on that. So yeah, I don't like the needle exchange program. I didn't like it when it was at our church. However, you know, the church is open to everyone, and so we used it as that means to help those people who thought they needed the help. Thank you.
Mr. Snyder.
If you'd asked me this a month ago and I said needle exchange, absolutely not. However, there's a comma here. I did speak to someone the other day. She's a counselor. She said, Steven, she said, I am recovering. Now, I am also speaking to other people in the community, and needle exchange is one of those ways as they come in that we need to get to them, to be able to counsel them, to be able to witness to them, as Boogie said, to be able to do those things. Listen, this is a drug crisis. I'm not for needle exchange, but I am for every possible opportunity. We need to think outside the box. Conventional methods hasn't worked. Incarcerations haven't necessarily worked. We've got a court problem. We've got an overcrowding prison problem. We've got a lot of issues. We need to be unconventional in our thinking. Now, I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying I'm for needle exchange. I am saying that we need to look at every possible option, and maybe we need to get outside of this box. When I talk to judges, when I talk to police officers, when I talk to people in the court system, one person said 70% of what comes before them is directly related to drugs, from petty crime all the way up to spousal abuse, all the way up to children being neglected, and then they up in foster care, and foster care is a problem. We end up paying for that. Drug crisis in West Virginia is bleeding our state dry of human beings and finances. Is that about it, Ted?
Got 20 seconds.
Holy cow.
Okay. What will, and this is a two-part question, let's make this 3 minutes each. What will your stance be assisting law enforcement in Greenbrier County, both financially and through more stringent laws regarding violent crimes involving narcotics, starting with Mr. Ambler?
First part of the question was, how would we
Support
help
financially.
financially? Let's be realistic, folks. I want a safe place to live. I want to have safe streets. And so, yes, first responders, our police officers, our natural resource police officers, we need to financially support them. We cannot turn our back on those people. They're the ones that I depend on every day to take care of me, to take care of my family, to take care of you and what's out on the street. I don't want to have to be walking around with something on my hip. Now, this is my cell phone. I'm just using it as an example. I don't want to have to carry this around to protect me and my family. So I'm going to support them financially and whatever. The second part of the question was, Ben, to refresh my memory.
More stringent laws regarding violent crimes involving narcotics.
All right, I'm going to step out here and simply tell you that there used to be an older man by the name of Overton who introduced a bill every year reenacting or bringing back the death penalty for crimes that are so atrocious. I'm sorry. The death penalty is something that is personal to each and every one of us, how you feel about it. I think the death penalty is something that if you have some so grievous and crime that maybe you are not rehabilitatable, okay, that you can't get through that. So under Overton, I think I actually signed on a time or two when I was in the legislature for that. I still believe that we do have crimes that do not police officers being killed, serving a warrant or something. They are certain things that certainly respond that you are not going to change people. I'm sorry. I think they made choices when they did what they did, just like in Charlotte today, 4 police officers killed. Folks, we got to go back. There has to be penalties for what you do when you know it is wrong. We can't continue to condone and say, "Oop, what was it back in the 60s and the 70s? The devil made me do it." Who made you do it was you. And so, yes, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Mr. Snyder.
Okay, Ben, so just violent crimes and support officers
And how to
financially.
support officers financially, and how to have more stringent laws regarding violent crimes involving narcotics.
Okay. The reality is this, financially, there is a lot of federal money out there. I know people don't like to take federal money a lot of times because there are strings attached to it. Okay? Understand that, that's great. But if we have a 75% match or an 80% match or a 95% match on federal money that helps us in West Virginia set up a drug task force to help officers in Rainelle like Mike and the folks over in White Sulphur Springs and everybody else in this county to get money to the drug task forces so that they have the information and the assets they need to end this problem, then we should absolutely be doing that. We need to look at this. When it comes to stiffer penalties, right now 15 grams of a controlled substance, that's what it takes, over 15 grams before it becomes a felony charge. Let's go ahead and look at dropping that back a little bit. Okay, maybe we abate your first sentence if you go into rehab. If you're a user, you get caught, we put you into rehab, you get back out, at least you're clean, you can be put back to work. I talked to a business owner the other day that said, give us, they went to the day report center and said, give us your drug-free clients, because we know they are and we know they're being tested. We need to put them back to work. It is part of the rehabilitative cycle to get them out there, but you can't let them go back to the front porch with their friends and neighbors and fall right back into the same problem that they had before. Okay, when it comes to stiffer penalties, I'd like to just say, I like Hardy, country song, stay in a truck. Anybody know what I'm talking about when I say stay in a truck? I'd like to just say stay in a truck. But this is a country of laws and due process. And everybody gets to everybody gets due process as much as we'd like to say just stay in the truck. As far as the drug problem, again, it has affected every part of our society in West Virginia. This isn't just people that are worthless on the street corner. Some of these are moms, parents, fathers, grandparents, people who went in for a procedure and were prescribed a drug by a real physician, pushed by opioid companies who pushed a physician to push a product that then got them addicted in as few as 3 days. 3 days, your body, your mind can change to say, I now have to have more of that and I can't go back. It is tragic. It's ruining the fabric of our society. We need to deal with it, and we need to use all means possible.
Mr. Canterbury.
Thank you. I'm just the first part, I'm going to address it just very briefly. Of course, I think we're all gonna support law enforcement financially if we can, although that's going to be, maybe a fairly vague thing to say, because when you're dealing with the budget, you just have to set aside allocations. I will also say that I was pensions chair, so maybe if you want to support law enforcement officers, it might be possible to go back at some point and look at the retirement rules and so on, or the things that, I know law enforcement is kind of hard to work past a certain age, because it's kind of hard to deal with, it's kind of hard to chase an 18-year-old when you're 55 years old, right? So, we may have to look at ways to enhance pension benefits or something, but we would have to fund that. Let me add one more thing. Everybody here would be in favor of enhancing penalties for people who are on narcotics or doing anything else that's violent. In fact, it's necessary. And I'm not throwing cold water on this. I'm just saying I was on the finance committee for a long time, and I know that over the years, we run into problems with putting people in jail because we run out of space. And building a jail, which may even be necessary, is expensive. So we have to find some way to crack down hard, but we're going to have to, if we do that, if we enhance penalties, we better be aware of the fact that there's going to be a significant fiscal note to that. And so we'll have to have a serious plan to come up with the financing for that, because I think when I was there, and I'm sure with Biden inflation it's worse, but at the time I was there, like a new prison was like $200 million. You're done.
Starting with Mr. Snyder. Now we're getting some fun questions. Okay. Governor Justice has on several occasions, through legislation passed by both houses, utilized public tax dollars to subsidize out-of-state public corporations.
Private corporations.
Pardon?
Private corporations.
I'm reading the question, but there you go. So
Should be
private, public, believe in Form Energy, which is the question here. You're dealing with a private company there. Form Energy recently, through legislation, was funded in the amount of $300 million to come to the state of West Virginia. Do you believe that the public funding of private companies is the best avenue for our state to continue in bringing jobs to this state in the same manner that Form Energy did for the state of West Virginia?
Can you read the question like it was written?
No.
Okay.
Starting with Mr. Snyder.
I'm getting the impression this was Todd's question, but listen, I know Form Energy, and Todd doesn't have to feed me information on it because I know Form Energy. $300 million. Your money. My money. A California company that came here, and the state of West Virginia gave them incredibly valuable land on the Ohio River that used to be a steel mill, and we, as the citizens of West Virginia, owned that piece of property. The deal is so stinky and got pushed through the legislature so quickly, nobody knew what happened. If they employ 700 people in the state of West Virginia, they get the whole dang thing for free. Free. Hi, they don't have 700 employees, and the contract does not say whether they have to employ those 700 West Virginians for a day, a week, or a minute. There are no stipulations. And if they use this, they can then sell that property at a complete profit to a Chinese company if they want to. Okay? We talk about giving public land to the Chinese. This is like one step away from our land that you and I own going to the Chinese government or a Chinese company with no strings attached because our governor and our legislature cut a really bad deal for you and me. I have spoken to people on the inside, people that have actually read the whole contract. It's a stinky deal, and you should be appalled. You need to read up on it. Now, if we attract a Berkshire Hathaway company, like we did up in Ripley, and they're making aircraft batteries, they're making other titanium aircraft parts. Berkshire Hathaway is a absolutely respected company throughout the world. If you're a Berkshire Hathaway company, you're on the top of the list. You're at the top of the heap. Listen, some tax abatements, some incentives. That's how the Golden Triangle down there in Alabama, South Carolina, all those folks, that's how they attract businesses down there. And we're falling behind because we're not working hard enough. Or frankly, maybe we're working hard, but we're just working stupidly. We're not working smart. Yes, we need to attract businesses. We need to employ people, because if we don't employ more people, we're going backwards. We're all graying out. People are starting to look like me, maybe even a little worse. I don't know, maybe a little better. But either way, our tax base is dwindling. If we don't get the tax base back with working age people that can put money back into the economy of our state, we're backing up. What are we going to do then? Are we going to go ahead and back off the things that we provide to the public, like police forces and building roads? Or are we going to tax the people that are left? Those are the only two options you have.
Mr. Canterbury.
Thank you. I'm a free market guy. I do not believe that subsidies for particular companies are the way to go. I think that's highly inefficient. If you want to build the economy in the state of West Virginia, you need to reform the entire tax code in such a way that it makes it fair for everyone and provides the proper incentives for everyone to do business. If you look around the country and you look at the states that are doing well financially, it is the states like Florida, Tennessee, and Texas that do not have an income tax. Now, the reason for this is that the income tax is considered to be one of the greatest disincentives to work. It is a disincentive. Did I turn this thing off? Did I turn it off?
Maybe.
I may have.
That's okay.
I can keep talking.
Yeah.
Tennessee, Texas, Florida have all went to a zero income tax. I looked at tax reform years ago. There was a study done asking which taxes you need to reduce if you want to improve an economy, and it was a comparison of property taxes, sales taxes, and income taxes. And the general consensus among economists was that if you want to improve economic performance, what you do is you lower income taxes. So the problem with incentives like these for companies is that they're highly inefficient, because if the market won't support that through the marketplace, that is not an efficient enterprise, and it's not only a waste of private money, it's a waste of taxpayer money. So rather than those sorts of boondoggles, I would say focus on the tax code, and especially focus on reducing the income tax.
Yes.
Mr. Ambler.
I think both the gentlemen have points to be made on it. Is this working at all? Okay, so
There it is. I think it just came back.
back now.
He's working on it.
She's working on it. You're good for now. Go ahead.
All right, okay, both the gentlemen have made points about the taxes and things. Let's be realistic. West Virginia started a program several years ago about trying to create land along corridors around, making them site ready for industry to come to West Virginia. And we looked at the tax codes and things and said, this better?
Yes.
Okay, we looked at tax codes and took a look at those and how it would affect the people, and our money and things. Yeah, we've given some, I will say, sweet deals to several companies. This one probably is sweeter than maybe what we want. But is the return going to be something that creates 600, 700, 800 jobs, that does put a source of income back into West Virginia every year? Is it when you take site preparation and bring in a company, it stimulates that region? And I will tell you something, I would love to see site preparation done on Interstate 64 out here, somewhere between Beckley and White Sulphur, site preparation where we could offer, and I believe we would be probably more than willing to offer some form of a tax incentive to bring a company here and create these jobs here. That's what we got. Now, yeah, do you have to be careful what kind of incentives that you do, how intricate are they, what do they actually do, the wording, all of those are. But every deal is not a good deal all the time. Sometimes you live and learn from a deal. And maybe this one wasn't the best wording and the way it took place. Let's be hopeful that we learn from that what we need to do to make the next one a better deal for us as West Virginians. We have to have industry coming in here to this state. We have to create jobs for our kids. We have to create an income that the state stays stable. We can't go through turmoil of ups and downs of the rainy day fund. Hey, yeah, good times are here, but they are. Good times can change tomorrow. We have to be careful. Thank you. Now we're working up.
The Second Amendment has become a hot button issue in this race. This is a three-part question. We'll go in order. Each one of you has a minute, 30 seconds on each. 1, do you support open carry in the state of West Virginia? Starting with Mr. Canterbury.
Yes, I believe we have that. Yes.
You support it to stay as is.
Stay as is, yes, I do.
Okay, Mr. Ambler?
Open carry's been around since I was there, and I'll tell you something, I kind of like to walk down the street and see the guy carrying it. Then I know how to react to it versus the guy who's got it hid down in his pocket that I may not know anything. And I suspect our police officers and others would kind of like to rather see the thing and know it out there. So open carry, if we'd have a law that changes something that, but still permits, absolutely. Open carry, yes, do it. Let's continue to do it.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes, open carry, sure. We need to, I do encourage gun training, gun safety courses, responsible gun ownership. But open carry, I'm fine with it. Again, it's not the people that are carrying openly, like some in the audience tonight, that most police officers have to worry about. It's the ones with it hidden under their seat. They've got a conviction. They're running from the law. They were going to do a bad thing anyway. They're not going to put it on their hip and walk down the middle of the street and say, oh yeah. And nobody open carries to scare people. Some of it is just a course of life. I use it on the farm because we've got bears and long-tailed cats. I carry one, okay? I came to Rainelle tonight carrying one not because I always do, openly like this, but to make a statement because somebody questioned my Second Amendment stance. I don't think you will anymore. If you see my sign, this same gun is on my hip. And I've said, Second Amendment, it's an over my cold dead body sort of an issue. The Second Amendment exists to protect everything else in the Constitution of the United States, including the First Amendment, even when we don't like what people have to say.
Keep the mic. Campus carry, yes or no?
It's there. They're already working on it. I've got no problem with it. My son is at WVU right now. He will be going through an extensive gun training course. Possibly 350 rounds in this gun training safety course. He will know how to use it. Folks, I hate the fact that our schools are at this point, but our world has just dematerialized, become unchristian to the point that that's where we are. Am I going to let my son, your child, your daughters sit somewhere and be sitting ducks? It's okay for them to protect themselves. Again, I hate the fact that the world that we live in has gotten to this point. But done properly, campus carry is totally okay by me. Thank you.
Mr. Ambler?
Interesting about the campus carry. Yes, I will tell you something. In 2016, as the mailer suggested about constitutional carry, I've always concerned about the gun that no one sees. Always been concerned about that. And then in this case, this campus carry is something that we had buildings we couldn't carry your guns in. They were posted right outside that you couldn't carry your gun in. Campuses will make their own decisions on how they best feel about that. If it becomes a legislative issue, then yeah, we're going to go with it. But I will tell you something. In 16, when my grandson was at Fairmont State, he told me, he said, Granddad, he said, hey, they carry it all the time anyway. They carry it. Everybody, I can tell you, everybody around is carrying a gun. I still didn't think it was right. I think you need to be trained. I have my concealed carry permit. I've had it for years. I know which end of the bullet of the gun that the bullet's going to come out of. I sometimes wonder if those who are carrying have that same knowledge. So I think it's a very serious thing. But if it becomes down to an issue, as we said, campus carry, if the universities do the protection, et cetera, yeah, I'll go along with it. I'd go along and support that.
Mr. Canterbury?
Yes, college campuses can be dangerous places. I saw on Breitbart just about a week ago where some girl was on a college campus. It wasn't in West Virginia, it was in Chicago, but she was on 56th and University, and I know where that was because I stayed in a dorm a block from this exact place. And she was approached at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in broad daylight with a man with a gun who wanted to steal her iPhone. And so you sometimes have to have the means to defend yourself. She didn't have a gun. The only thing she could do was reach over, hit the eject button on his cartridge, and after she ejected his magazine, she wrestled the gun away from him and threw it in the bush. I guess she knows how to handle a gun. But yes.
Okay. Starting with Mr. Ambler, what makes you the best candidate to represent our conservative values on the issue of the Second Amendment?
I think it's the idea that I'll sit down and discuss it with people, that I'll listen to those on both sides of it. Looking at the Second Amendment, it's been around since the formation of our country. It's been there, the right to keep and bear arms. I sometimes have questioned the concealing of weapons because of safety factors that are in, but I have no problem with defending the Second Amendment to the Constitution. I think carrying a gun, if you choose to, you're trained and stuff, and you're going to use it responsibly, let's do it. As far as the Second Amendment going to where everyone ought to be entitled, I tell you, I have a problem when we have, like the situation that happened in Huntington here just last couple of days. We had a drug dealer who had $200,000 in his apartment, a bunch of drugs, and he also had a gun. And our police officer put out the APB on him and did what? They called him armed and dangerous to tell the public what's out there. So, because you are a Second Amendment and you want to have your gun, fine and dandy. But do keep in mind, there may come a time when you must use that firearm. And there's where the issue, I think, comes. That's where I'm all for the Second Amendment, always have been. I've taught all my kids to grow to respect a firearm and what it can do. Okay?
Thank you. Mr. Snyder.
I feel like a yo-yo, dude.
We need to know how and why the Second Amendment came into existence. The Constitution was written, and then the Convention of States went back and said, nope, there's got to be more. We've got amendments, about 10 of them. The right to keep and bear arms, ladies and gentlemen, was based on what our forefathers' experiences were. They came here from a distant land with an oppressive government. What did the English do to the Scots? What did they do to the Irish? Did they put troops in your home against your will? Yep. Did they eat your food against your will? Yeah, they did. Did they have the weapons where the citizens held hostage and hopeless because the weapons were controlled by the government that was then controlling them? This is a checks and balance. It's just that simple. You will not have an oppressive government if you have an armed citizen that is the proper check and balance. Our forefathers understood that. Our state Constitution has the same thing. There's a lot of cut and paste from the U.S. Constitution. When my great-great-grandfather sat down at the Second Wheeling Convention and they penned a document to make us a state because we weren't properly represented over in Richmond, the people west of the Alleghenies were being taxed and not properly represented, seemed a whole lot like what happened when our forefathers came over from a foreign land. They put that in our Constitution as well, or it is in our Constitution. There's a lot in cut paste.
Mr. Canterbury.
I'll make it very simple. Your life is a gift from your Creator, not your government. And your government does not have the right to tell you that you do not have the right to defend it. You have a survival instinct because you have been endowed with an understanding of the value of that which you have been given, and you will protect it. When the Second Amendment says that your right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, I think that that is absolutely what it means.
Starting with Ray. What is your most important issue that you will be trying to legislate? 2 minutes.
Actually, the most important issue going forward is going to be basically the finances of the state of West Virginia. Now, this isn't a single piece of legislation. What this really amounts to is we're going into a period where the state of West Virginia is going to be facing, like all the rest of the country, a budgetary crisis. And when I said that the state of West Virginia has one of the highest debt to GDP ratios in the country, I mean, we need to take some steps to reduce the debt load in the state of West Virginia, because if you can't have a reasonably low debt load, in the long term, you can't guarantee that your taxes are going to be low. The fact is, our primary concerns going forward are going to be finances, reducing unfunded liabilities, paying down our debts, identifying ways to reduce those debt loads on future generations, so that when we do enact tax reform, we can really meet it. And the thing is, when businesses look at tax structure, they also do, I think, look at debt structure, because they know that if your debt structure is very high and you go through an economic downturn, you may have to reverse the tax cuts. So I think that it's very important for us in the long run to focus on fiscal issues, because we do have an aging population and one of the highest public debt to GDP ratios in the country, and we absolutely have to address that, and that must be our priority.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I believe it's Mr. Ambler's turn to go.
Question again now, Amy?
What is the most important issue that you will be trying to legislate if elected?
I don't think it ever changes. Money is always the important issue. In order to fund fire departments, in order to fund our police, in order to fund our programs for addiction, order to fund for the children who are in need that grandparents have, all these things come back from one basic word, and that's the money. So actually, we have to be able to take and create an economic basis here that with the prognosis of the stock market. People talk about it that you're in April and out in May kind of thing, and they talk about it coming down. Hey, that prospect is always there. Yeah, we look good right now in West Virginia. We have rainy day money A and B that is well up into those the $1 billion range, but that can cease seemingly overnight. We have to continue to push the things that West Virginia are good at. Tourism is one of them. We still have to stay and be pushing the energy that this state has. This is what has created our state. This is what will continue us moving forward. And the only way we're going to continue to do that is be very mindful of what the state budget is and how it goes. You have to take a great deal of interest in taking a look at giveaway programs. The problem with a giveaway program, when you give it one time, you can never get it back. It'll never come back. What it does is continue to grow. So we're going to have to be prudent about how we go about and what the programs are, the new programs that we are going to be faced with, the demand of the public. We're going to have to be careful. We're going to have to take and be mindful. But yes, the economy is always going to be the number one issue for us. It is for me. I'm tickled about Social Security, the tax and those things. It's great to have that. I appreciate what the legislature did.
Ken, is this still a minute and a half?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Well, we got a minute and a half.
Most important issue that we would legislate, correct?
Yes.
Most important thing is not to legislate for legislative purposes. Let's do common sense things. We need to talk about the budget and every single thing that touches it. We don't wait till the last day of the session to try and get that done because everybody didn't have their information together. Let's get the budget done starting on day one. We need to talk about DHHR. We need to talk about drugs. We need to talk about economic development. We need to talk about education. Those things, those basic tenets of our state and the cornerstones need to be talked about first. We don't need to be talking about foolish legislation, special interest legislation, bills that are running because somebody put money in front of somebody to get it there. We just absolutely do not do that. But there's 2,000 bills a session running. And then we waste our time with that sort of stuff when we haven't taken care of the basic cornerstones to take care of the public at large. The second, the thing that I will say legislatively, this is a term limits pledge. Your Senate did it 32-2 in 2021, bipartisan. It was sent over to the House on the last day of the session. The House never took it up. They never took it up in the special session. They've never taken it up since. When political action committees and lobbyists start getting at people that have been there a long time, and the power gets centralized, you and I lose control of the vote because somebody else is buying the vote. And we'll get a chance to talk about that later.
Mr. Ambler, in 2022, following the overturning of Roe v. Wade, legislators passed a law banning abortion in the state of West Virginia with narrow exceptions. Those exceptions include if a condition makes the fetus incompatible with life, a medical emergency exists, or a pregnancy is the result of a reported rape or incest. Are you comfortable with the law as is in the state of West Virginia? Or, if not, what changes would you like to make to abortion policy in West Virginia?
An important issue that we all struggle with, and then when we take out, each of us will have our own thought process. The abortion bill with the 8-week and things, I will tell you something. That is too narrow of a window. Too many people having to have strings to put on that who you gonna have to name or whatever. In about 2015, 2016, somewhere in there, we passed an abortion bill in West Virginia that had a 20-week window on it. In 2 weeks, the doctor and things, so up to 20, with pretty much the same ideas on it without having to name what happened, okay? If it was a rape or incest type thing. The idea of this, I think the 14 to 15 week was a better thing, because what does it do? It gives that person, regardless of how they were impregnated, a chance to take a look at life, and do they want to continue? I would like to see the thing changed from the 8-week up to a longer period of time of 14 to 15 weeks on that. I think that just gives people a much better idea of whether they want to continue to carry that child.
It's actually Mr. Canterbury.
Well, I'm very pro-life, and I will defend life from the very beginning if I can. I'm generally comfortable, I guess, with the bill as it is. But let me say this. I'm going to kind of expand on the question a little bit. And I think that the reason that this issue is so important is because, you know, if we want to protect life and we believe that human life is sacred, we have to meet it. And I think that we're in the Western world. We're not just now talking about abortion. You know, some of the Western countries are talking about euthanasia. We're talking about taking people that are elderly in places like Canada and asking them if they would like to be euthanized. And the reason they're doing that is because they want to save money, and they're very explicit about that. You know, when you get to the point where you are so callous to human life that you would put a price tag on it, I think your country's completely lost. So I think that we have to begin protect life from the beginning. Absolutely, and with the strongest legislation possible, the strongest legislation that we could possibly get. I think the legislature got as much as they could, and I'm okay with it.
Still 2 minutes, right, Ben?
Yes.
I'm okay with it as written. Ladies and gentlemen, my wife's sitting in the second row, 34 years of marriage. My wife is 60. I'm not supposed to say that. I'm 58. I'm younger. That's a good thing. Our son just turned 18. Do that math. My wife was 42 when our son was born. We had all sorts of medical professionals. They put on her record, AMA. She thought it was against the medical advice. They said advanced maternal age. We're like, oh, ooh. They said, hey, there are options. What if this child has a problem? What if this child is going to be disabled? Ladies and gentlemen, I got a pastor sitting right across from me in the front row, Pastor Ben Steves. I am a Christian man. My wife and I chose to have that child, and we told them, you can do whatever you want to do. You can give the advice, but you can take that advice somewhere else. My wife and I prayed about this child one last time. We said, God, if this is your intention and we're ever going to have a child, this is our last chance before I go do something to make sure it doesn't happen, okay? Not to be totally crass. We have a beautiful child. He is a genius son. He is a valuable asset to this community. He is God's creature. And if he would have been disabled, like 2 or 3 of the young people that I know here in Rainelle that are adult children with severe disabilities being raised by their parents, we would have done it anyway. I'm going to sound very gross. Don't judge me. We have a farm. Boogie has a farm. We raise cattle. if I took those cows to the 3rd trimester and then decided I didn't want to feed all those extra cows through the winter, and I went out and I aborted the fetus out of every one of those cows and then sold off their parts for scientific research, you all would hang me. They would put me in prison. We're not talking about cows. We're talking about children. Children in the eyes of God that have value. That's my stance.
Mr. Snyder can keep the mic.
No.
I'm going to ask each of you to take 2 minutes to explain your opinion on prevailing wage in the state of West Virginia and the current right-to-work law in the state of West Virginia. 2 minutes, Mr. Snyder.
2 minutes on right to work and prevailing wage.
Yes.
I am absolutely all for right to work. You shouldn't be forced to go somewhere to work and they forced you to join the union and pay them dues against your will. Period. Prevailing wage, it adds a lot of extra money. I am against both of those tenets. But I will tell you, there's somebody at this table tonight that needs to explain where their money comes from. 38% of their campaign contributions come from AFL-CIO and other associated unions, and guess what they push? They push prevailing wage, and they push this sort of information right here. Go ahead and follow the money and follow the votes. Guess who voted for prevailing wage and against right to work? Follow the money. It's all out there on the internet. AFL-CIO gave Democrats almost $1 million. They only gave Republicans $42,000 in West Virginia. One of the candidates standing up here tonight actually was a recipient of that money from the AFL-CIO and those unions. What is AFL-CIO pushing? They oppose the right to work. They oppose the repeal of prevailing wage. They stand for transgender equality. They also stand for immigrants and a pathway to citizenship and voting. That's the AFL-CIO. Recent ads on the internet that just popped up over the last 48 hours after I got an endorsement from conservative values people in West Virginia, including legislators that are there. Guess who's paying for that? That would be those nice folks at one of those political action committees, and their chairperson said in 2020 that a Biden presidency cannot come fast enough. But guess what? There's a candidate up here at this table that took their money, and right now they're paying for ads on behalf of that candidate. Just listen to it.
Rules are you cannot be vague and you must name that individual by name so that that individual may have a chance to respond.
Okay. Mr. Canterbury took money from the AFL-CIO and other unions out of all the money that he raised over the course of 10.
Name, you were past time. Name's been mentioned, Mr. Canterbury. Because the name was mentioned, he will have not only his regular 2 minutes, he will also have an additional minute, 3 minutes total, Mr. Canterbury.
Okay, that's fine. I don't know how they're spending their money. These are super PACs, and they do what they do. Yes, I voted against right to work, and I'm going to tell you why I did it. The right to work law is not only what you think it is. Most people think it's simply a matter of you don't have to join the union if you don't want to. That's true. If you're in a right to work state, you don't have to join the union. But there's one more piece to that. If you're not part of a union, and you are part of a union shop, and you have a grievance against your employer, you can ask that union to defend you. And they have to do it. And you don't have to pay them for it. You're basically able to shift the cost of your representation to your coworkers' pocketbooks. That's freeloading. Now, freedom of association is a Republican value, but freeloading isn't. Now, we can't change the right to work law to change it so that the unions can recover the cost they incur from representing people that are not part of the union, because that's part of the federal law. So that would have to be changed at the federal level. Now, personally, I just simply think that the right to work law, as it's constructed, is unfair. And I believe that if you want to get this country back on track, I'm absolutely pro-business. Absolutely pro-business. As is Roger Hanshaw, who was the Speaker of the House, who also voted against the right to work law.
He did.
He did. And he's led a very pro-business state. But here's the thing. If you're going to get this country back on track, you're going to have to bring business and labor both back to the table again. you're going to have to make them understand that you're going to be fair with them. Donald Trump went to Michigan, stood on a picket line with union workers to help them seek higher wages. He's lobbied the Teamsters Union for their endorsement. I don't know what they're going to do, but they've given the Republican National Committee $45,000. So there's a lot of angst in the Republican Party in some cases for unions. There's a lot of angst in unions for the Republican Party, but I think that gradually that's changing because MAGA is different. So the right to work law, as I see it, is probably okay staying. Well, it's not going to change because of the majority, but I don't like it as it is because it's simply, as I said, it's not fair.
Mr. Ambler, 2 minutes.
I was in the legislature when we passed right to work, prevailing wage, and very proudly voted for those. I truly think that's right to work, and I will tell you, I was in the profession for 25 years. I was in unions the prior 20 plus years when I was in the highway and heavy construction, worked in a plant, and I will tell you something, they have their place. As a history teacher, unions do have their place. However, when they start and forget what they're supposed to be doing and start becoming a little more on the greedy side of things, and then start forcing people to come into their union for more money to be taken in. I was in 3 different unions through the 1980s, the mid-1980s. I never received a dime back from any of those union dues. Never received any benefit from those in my later years. I did not join the teachers union in West Virginia. I thought I saw a union protecting teachers who probably shouldn't have been in the system. They should have been taken out of the system early and bring someone in who was a good teacher. So I didn't. I am proud of the fact that we have the right to work in West Virginia. And the prevailing wage, I'm telling you, when we got under $500,000 projects, like down in Alderson and other places, those lesser projects came with good paying jobs, but they weren't paying Davis Bacon wages. And so we saved money there. Now, I would not stand here and tell you tonight that I think that it is absolutely a necessity that wonderful things took place. But good things did take place when we passed that, and I'm all for that, and I hope that we continue that. And I don't think we'll see that again, come up again.
30 seconds each, starting with, let me get my order straight here. Starting with Mr. Canterbury, who are you supporting for governor and why?
Wow.
I'm just going to say that officially I stay in my own lane.
Mr. Ambler.
I'll tell you something, I don't need 30 seconds to tell you because when I go in the voting booth, that's where I make my choice at, and it's my choice between me and that candidate and God Almighty. And I do not and did not, while I was in the legislature, tell anybody how I was going to vote on any bill. And so I will not tell you who I'm supporting for governor or who I'm going to plan on to vote for. That is my right. That's why we have a secret ballot, so I can go there and mark who I choose to.
Right.
Snyder.
What he said, my choice. But I will tell you a funny little story. My grandfather donated land to the little one-room schoolhouse in Bannington, West Virginia. That was the voting precinct. During the Kennedy election, he said, Mark, that's my middle name, he said, Mark, they went up every hollow they could, and he said they pulled them out by the dang truckloads, and he says they went in with a blank ballot, or actually they went in with a ballot filled out the way that they wanted to vote. They went in, they came out with a black mark on their hand with an empty ballot that they gave back to the people at the pickup truck. And those people got a $5 bill and a pint of liquor. That's a lot of money in the 1960s, was it not?
2 more questions, then we'll be done for the evening. Let's talk about education. The state of West Virginia and the legislature, over the course of the past 2 years, has spent a lot of time improving systems such as homeschooling in the state of West Virginia, making it easier for private schools in the state of West Virginia, working on things such as the Hope Scholarship. What is your priority as our legislator to improve education standards in the state of West Virginia and to stop the bleeding of our kids leaving this state and keeping them here so that we can continue to expand our state? 3 minutes each. Starting with Mr. Snyder.
You wouldn't think I'd ever run out of words. Education is one of the most critical cornerstones of our state. We can't afford to have our young people continue to leave in droves and never come back. I'm the first one of 18 first cousins to ever come back home. One never left. She's a school teacher in Wetzel County. She's single. She still plays in the WVU band. She's a year older than me. She's 59 years old and she's a school teacher. That is her life. But listen, they have to make a living wage to feed a family. Not to sound rude, but we need to stop feeding off the bottom when it comes to paying wages and compensation packages to our teachers. We need to be up here. We need to compete. Economic development depends on the workforce. The workforce depends on teachers. Teachers depend on parents to augment what they do. It takes everybody to get this done. If we're going to attract businesses, we need to be workforce ready. That means a college track for those who want to do that. Because we need lawyers, Pat. We need automobile mechanics. We need career tech education for automobile mechanics, roads, engineers. We need a pathway. Some are going to go back to the family farm and they're going to do that work because somebody's got to feed the rest of the people that don't know how to feed themselves. There are multiple tracks for our young people, and we need to make sure that education in West Virginia provides a pathway for each one of them. And whatever that pathway is, we hope it stays right here at home. We don't need anybody else leaving. My father left here in '61 because he couldn't find work in his chosen aviation field, and he never came back. I was born in Hartford, Connecticut. Don't hold it against me, okay? My younger brother was born in Georgia when my dad worked for Lockheed on the Apollo project. We were all over because that's what my dad did because he couldn't make a living here. I'm back because I love West Virginia to my core. This education and keeping our kids at home is why I'm running for this office. We need to stop kicking the can down the road, and we need to maybe start kicking in a few doors. Literally, not figuratively, or figuratively, not literally. I'm not that in your face. Education is a key cornerstone. We absolutely, positively have to get it done, and we need to look at every single one of those young people and let them follow their passion. I followed a military career, am I done? A military career track. I was a Coast Guard officer. I was Coast Guard enlisted. It was a job about service. This is a job about service. I might sound a little frustrated tonight because of some backdoor money and some other things that I feel is disrupting our way of life. But please don't misunderstand me. I am most humbly trying to serve people. That is what I'm here to do.
Mr. Ambler, 3 minutes, education.
And repeat the question, please.
Basic gist of it. What would be your priority if you became a legislator in improving education standards in the state of West Virginia and keeping our kids here?
Being there for 25 years in the classroom. I tell you what we need to do back. We need to start teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic to our kids. I firmly believe that. There is nothing wrong. Every kid that I know right now, from 4 years old, go into a doctor's office and they're sitting there playing on the game. They view education as playing on some device. That device will give you whatever information you want it to, but if you have no background or no knowledge into it, you don't know if it's good information or bad information. We need to go back to teaching kids what is necessary. I'm in full agreement with this statement that was made, and that is that we need to make schools fit the kid, not the kid trying to fit the school. Now how do you do that? You do that simply by vocational education. Every kid, I would tell you,
I was sold a book, bill of goods, and I figured many of you are because we're pretty much the same, that yeah, you got to go to college to be successful. That may have been true in 1970. It may very well have been, but it's not true today. I know kids who are vocationally trained kids, welders, plumbers, heavy equipment operators, who are pulling down far more money than I ever did as a teacher with my college education. Now, I'm not saying I'm sorry I went to college when I was 37 years old. That's when I went. It's the first time I walked into a college. And I got my degree, and I spent 25 years. But I told kids the same thing. Get out there. If you are not inclined to go to college, get into a trade. We need trade. And that's what we need to do. Our teachers are coming on. We have raised their salaries tremendously in the last 5, 6, 7 years. Every year I was in the legislature, I put in a 2 to 3% raise each year. Luckily, most of the time after we got out of the other party's control, it went up to 5% and we got that to move on. Hey folks, let's get our kids back into school, get them to where they enjoy what they're doing. But let's take the computer out of their hand right now. Let's let them learn to write. Let them learn to read, so when they graduate, they can fill out a job application. That is where the problem lies right now. Go back to teaching, not just passing them through. I left in 2016, and I will tell you something as a final note. I saw the quality of my students change dramatically from 2005 to the time I walked out. And it was all because we forgot something. Everybody doesn't have to be successful at everything they do. Every now and then there is a consequence to you not doing your classwork. So, let's get it done. What do you say?
Canterbury.
Thank you. Yeah, it seems to me that sometimes the education community can sometimes pursue fads. I've had teachers that had all kinds of theories about how to teach, and they were always terrible. The best teachers I had were always the ones that just said, just do some extra problems, and eventually you'll get it. But one day I was standing in a subway in Fairleigh, and some kid was trying to clear the cash register at the end of the day. And what he really needed to do was just add up a column of figures. And he didn't know how to do it. He was 19 years old. And he looked around and he said, is anybody here good at math? Well, that prompted me to introduce a bill that said, we're going to have to ban the use of calculators, at least up through the 8th grade, because we need kids to learn basic skills. I believe in rudimentary skills. Well, the head of the State Math Teachers Association wrote me a letter, and she said, I'm against your bill. You know why? Because calculators help children with weak computational skills to advance. That's the point. They shouldn't. They shouldn't advance. They should learn how to do the math. People in the state, I think we need to also tell people we need to learn how to understand the value of education. Some people think that if you're rich, you're spoiled. I went to a private college where there was a private school on campus that had a K-12. And this K-12 was an elite school, and these kids are very rich. And this one little girl said to another, I was in the library, I wasn't listening in, but I heard it. She said to the other little girl, I have a paper due tomorrow in French. Oh, that's not too bad. How long does it have to be? And the first little girl said, 5 pages, these are 5th graders. And the second little girl said, well, that's not too bad. And the first little girl said, yeah, but it has to be in French. If you teach kids reading comprehension, you teach them how to follow orders. If you teach children how to read, how to speak, and how to communicate, and how to write, you teach them how to give them. If you want children to be leaders, you have to be very disciplined, and you have to teach them the value of education, and you have to give them rudimentary skills and build up from there.
Last question of the night. There's more topics we could get into, but the hour is late, and I think this is the right way to cap this off. How do we, as a Republican Party, stay unified after this primary? And how do we, as the majority party, the supermajority in Charleston, come together on issues and not constantly fight with each other and potentially break our supermajority apart? How do we stay unified going forward as a Republican Party, starting with Boogie Ambler?
Been interesting tonight to hear some of the words that I've been saying for the last 2 months. Common sense approach, ability to work across, to use what the trail has to offer. These are the things that we can do when we are as a party. If we can sit down and talk about a situation and reach an agreement on it, we can continue to go on. I will tell you something. I'm not a negative person. I want you to know that. You can ask my wife, 56 years, and I'm still not negative, okay? I love her to death on it. But I want you to know something. I'm not going to attack other people about anything of what they say, what they put out. That is not, I did not in 2012, and did not in 2014, not in 2016, and not in 2018, and I will not in 2024 do that. I'm not going to attack others to gain, because that is not what gain, that's not going to unify our party. We have to come back together and get on the same page of music and start deliberating with us. We cannot have little factions. I've said the biggest thing is that with Republicans, from day one when we took over in 2014, that you have to be careful, we're going to shoot ourselves in the feet. We're a supermajority, folks, both places. More than likely, we're going to get the governorship again. Let's stay united and keep our focus forward, not splinter it out. It doesn't have to be like a shotgun shell with shot going everywhere. Make it a rifle shell and straight on to the target. We are fortunate to have it. We worked hard to get it. And I tell you something, we need to retain it to move this state forward, to move West Virginia forward. Thank you.
Yeah, just keep in mind that whatever the differences among us might be as Republicans in any race, there are much bigger differences between us and the Democrats. So once the fall rolls around, there's just no way I can vote for crazy. As far as dealing with the division within the legislature, having seen it from within the Republican Party and having watched it within the Democrats, I can tell you something. There's something about human nature. You get a bunch of people in a room and they think they have power, egos come out. And I don't know how you fix that. That's exactly what divides a caucus. You have a lot of people that have big ambitions. They think that I always said, if you go to the legislature, you've got 100 people there and everybody was there, sent there to set the other 99 straight. And so once you have 100 different egos in the room, anything goes. But in that part of the process, I don't know how to fix that part of the problem. But as far as the election part, like I said, I'm just not going to vote for crazy.
Just 3 minutes, Ben, you said?
It's two.
It's two. And I think we're dead here.
Speak loud.
So I'll speak loudly. The question was, how do we stay unified? Listen, a supermajority can be a dangerous thing. We saw what the Democrats did with it. We as Republicans need to hold ourselves accountable. That means that we don't do dumb things just because we can. That doesn't mean that we run foolish legislation just because we can. That doesn't mean that every other person, every other Democrat, independent, unaffiliated, non-voter, they are all constituents, they're all West Virginians at the end of the day. And we are charged as Republicans to serve all of those people. Okay? I'm not saying that we have to do crazy, as Ray said, but we have to serve everybody. Everybody in this state that's paying taxes, that's looking to us. We have a single delegate district right now. So one of us is going to be responsible for roughly 18,000 people. They now have one person. They say, that's my person. I have a problem. I go to them. It is our job to carry that bucket of water to Charleston. But it is not our job to go to Charleston with a cloak and a hood on and take somebody's backdoor money to do the wrong thing. We need to be Republicans. We need to be conservatives. That's the platform we're running on. That means that we don't take special interest money from somebody that looks a whole lot like something else. Thank you.
Give everybody a round of applause. Final statement before we close for the night. Housekeeping. On the live stream, There was a comment from a Democrat candidate, why was I not invited? The answer to that is you are a Democrat. This is a That's all there is to it. No offense, just reality. I was called by Mr. Detch about whether or not he can participate in Thursday night's debate. I told him, no, you cannot participate because you are a Democrat. Second point, and I'll shut up.
Okay.
Main reason why we should be doing this is for many, many years, we have had debates and forums hosted in this county by ultra-leftist organizations who were putting our candidates, our Republican candidates, in the lion's den for no reason. Our Republican candidates do not deserve to be thrown to the lion's den. They deserve to be in front of Republican voters in the Republican primary. No more will our candidates be subjected to that. Can we get an amen?
Amen.
About close the primary.
I'm going to ask Mr. Jeff Austin, would you close us in prayer?
Father, thank you for this opportunity to meet the candidates, and moving forward, we pray that your wisdom shines through. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.